always mixed emotions. The first step is always hard when you walk out of the doorway, but that's just the place to start. The only thing I ever wanted starts with us taking the chance. Not like anything we've done before. Yeah. Now it's time for something better, and time for us to follow our dreams. No, we can't stay no more. Come run away. Don't be afraid. We'll be okay. And I know it's the right thing to do. Let's break away. All colors will fade. Let's go our own way. Now's the time to decide what to do, and I'll stand by you. By you. I'll stand by you. Now's the time to decide what to do. Let's break away. Somehow this is beautiful. Yeah. About time we let things go. Is this our destiny? Just like it was meant to be. Yeah. Get out, do it, break away. Come run away. Don't be afraid. We'll be okay. And I know it's the right thing to do. Let's break away. All colors will fade. Let's go our own way. Now's the time to decide what to do, and I'll stand by you. By you. I'll stand by you. Now's the time to decide what to do. Let's break away. Keep thinking that I could have done something, but now I'm left with an empty heart. No making amends, no waking up beside you and holding you till we forget it all. How could I know there was no second chances? Like dominoes, my life got really scattered. You couldn't keep the door shut, and now the frostbite's creeping in. 'Cause I've been stone cold since you left me here. So come home, why won't you reappear? Things that I said came out totally wrong. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. I fell into a big black hole. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. Got me stone cold. No Wizard of Oz can undo what I've done. Completely out of luck this time. I'm stuck in reverse. I gotta get away now, but I can't seem to take the lead. Oh baby, how could I know there was no second chances? Like dominoes, my life got really scattered. Still, I find myself hoping that you'll find your way back to me. 'Cause I've been stone cold since you left me here. So come home, why won't you reappear? Things that I said came out totally wrong. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. I fell into a big black hole. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. Aren't you tired of the drama? You use your words like they are knives. I don't need that type of drama and trying to be tough all the damn time. You try to make yourself feel better by taking me down. Once I fell, but now I'm strong, I'm ready for the rematch. Shoot me down, don't you know I get up? Yeah, baby, I will fight. No, there ain't nothing stopping me. I'm bulletproof, I won't fall. I'm bulletproof, go on and shoot me down. I will always get up again. You're looking at me so cold. Get over yourself, are you for real? Why are you looking at me so cold? One's love is not worth enemies. You try to make yourself feel better by taking me down. Once I fell, but now I'm strong, I'm ready for the rematch. Shoot me down, don't you know I get up? Yeah, baby, I will fight. No, there ain't nothing stopping me. I'm bulletproof, I won't fall. I'm bulletproof, go on and shoot me down. I will always get up again.
To order, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have an approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Melissa, seconded by Kathy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Now on to our citizens' comments, and we do have one request for a citizens' comment tonight, coming from Mr. Dustin Lozinski. Mr. Lozinski, thank you for your participation in our meeting tonight. As a reminder to everyone, the school board will not deliberate, discuss, or engage in conversation with speakers during open forum. However, the board may ask administration to review the concerns presented. Mr. Lozinski, you may now address the board.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Glad to see everybody's here. First most, I just want to let you know I have a student going into 11th grade, because I didn't mention this last time, but I have a student going into 11th, and I just had one graduate from Monticello. And my wife and I actually moved in this area with her experience in education and whatnot, that the school has done a lot of things for a lot of students. And I just want that to let you know that I do enjoy being in this community, and I definitely like being involved. The reason I'm here tonight is the proposed referendum that's going to be voted on tonight to go to the community for an election. As stated last time, and I just want to bring it up again, that last time was a good voter turnout, and there was a lot of people that showed up, and there was a 2-to-1 against the last referendum that was passed, which puts it about 6,633 people that voted no versus the 4,100 that said yes. And so, with that said, I mean, that's an overwhelming. That wasn't a close call. That was overwhelming, and there has to, be a reason for it. And I think if we evaluate what we were going into in 2020 at that time into the 2020-2021, we obviously had the lockdowns and whatnot, but there was some things about the way that the schools were run that must have put something, into people's minds that something wasn't right? So, and also, knowing that, there's everybody's, financially finding ways to get creative on what they're spending on and doing the wants versus needs, and having that at the forefront of their financial situation. So with this proposal that you guys are going to do tonight to have go up to the citizens, it seems to me it's kind of an off election year, and to me those are the ones that you're going to get less people involved, in the sense that it's not a normal election cycle. Even years do that. Odd years don't. You don't necessarily get as many people coming in because either they don't know the polling place, maybe they don't even know that it's happening, and it's not in front of them as much as is on even year. So knowing that that's in play this round, and knowing that there are other ideas to save money, that the school could consider, and ones that I've come up with, is, and they've done this, is they've turned down thermostats a couple degrees or even a degree, and see how that does for a budgetary for all the buildings you guys have. Also, the sprinklers, I know we're on a drought right now, and I know you're probably, reduced on that, but even just looking at aspects of just what runs the building, where's that we can cut costs, where's that we can get some of this money back. The other thing is just thinking about what's going to be coming up for the state budget cycle as well. So just keep that in mind, that you don't necessarily know the full picture of what you're going to be coming in for this new budget that was bigger than it has been in the last 15 years. So what I'm asking is to wait for the 2022 election. I think it's fair. It's more people will show up, more people will voice. And if you have this year's under your belt, this 2021, 2022 under your belt, showing that you appreciate the community, you're not going to require them to do, mask mandates and whatever, and give them the freedoms that they want, and show them a school year, a real school year with all that's entailed in that, I think you'll have a better suiting of a community wanting to contribute and help and find ways to get that money. And so just build back the trust with the people. Don't do this on the odd cycle years. I don't think it's fair to them. I think that you're best just waiting 1 year, let it roll through, and this community will stand behind you. So thank you.
Mr. Lisinski. Now on to our fiscal stability. First up is the consent agenda. Board members, you would have received that information in packets. If there's anything that needs to be discussed or any questions, now would be the time. Otherwise, I seek a motion to approve.
So moved. Seconded.
Motion made by Melissa, seconded by Kathy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Now on to the innovation and leadership part of the agenda, and we have our Northwest Talent Academy presentation.
Hi, I'm Jenine Severson. And I'm Leanne Goerz. And we are kind of a dynamic duo, if you will, that help to spearhead the NWTA Northwest Talent Academy, which is something that we have been doing for a few years now. We've been here before and presented, but I don't know that everybody knows who we are or what we are, so we'll give a little bit of background and then kind of talk to you about how things went this summer. So NWTA is, where do I point it? Gavin, where do we point? Okay, there we go. One of them worked. There we go. We're dedicated to meeting the needs of our high potential learners by providing unique opportunities and challenges in a fast-paced, engaging environment. And so with that, it's something that we work really hard in what we try to put forth for each of the classes that we offer to our students.
So we noticed, we came to talk a few years ago about just beefing up our GT program. I had children, I had at the time elementary school students that we would drive to Maple Grove for a gifted and talented camp called West Suburban Summer School. Janine was an amazing teacher there in years to follow. She would literally herd little kids and bring them down there, but we're like, what can we do in Monticello? And what is a GT, or a high potential student? In the Monticello School District, we use the term GT for gifted and talented. Other districts use the term high potential, and it is someone who has or has the potential for showing an exceptional level of understanding and performance in one or more areas. So going back to, I still don't know where to point this, Gavin, I'm sorry. There we go. Right here?
Just you point back.
Oh, there we go. All right. So back, if you remember, in 2018, I think some of you were on the board back then, we started the Monticello Talent Development Camp, and we ran 2 weeks over at Eastview. We had an American Sign Language class. Janine ran a STEM class, and I ran an escape room class, and we just had a blast, and it was for identified GT kids in the Monticello School District. In the fall of 2018, Janine is amazing, and she invited some of the collaborating Northwest suburban districts to join with her.
When we looked at that, we realized that there wasn't anything in any of the districts anywhere around us that offered any type of summer programming that really focused on this sector of kids, if you will. And so we came together, we put together what we now know as the NWTA program, and we went off and running that year with 3 weeks. It was amazing. We had a wonderful turnout from the 6 districts that we had at that time, and we couldn't have asked for a better kickoff to what we were, hoping for. And then, Mr. Yuck, COVID came, and so that was 2020 down the drain. So we thought, well, we're gonna hit the ground running again, and we weren't sure what this summer was going to look like, but we put our heads together, we found ways to problem solve, and when teachers are putting proposals together and we were looking at what we wanted to offer our students, we wanted to have the flexibility to whether it would have to be some in distance, or whether we would have to have masks or smaller groups, be outside more. So we took a lot of things into consideration when we put together what we ended up doing this summer. So we originally had 2 weeks in 2018, then we went to 3 weeks. This summer we did 4 weeks. We did 2 in June and 2 in July. It fell nicely because 4th of July was kind of that awkward time of the week. So it was a fantastic way to have 2 weeks, a break, and 2 more weeks. So with that, these are the districts we have now. So like I said, we originally started with 6. We went to 8, adding, who did we add? We added
and Maple Lake.
Becker and Maple Lake. I just found out recently that Big Lake is doing a little bit of changing in their servicing of programming for students, so they are going to be taking a step back for a little while with their summer programming. Their community ed is doing something a little bit different. So moving forward, we're going to be with the 7 districts, and we have the potential. Sauk Rapids has reached out, Rice has reached out, St. Cloud has reached out, so we have some big conversations to be had, and so we'll see where that leads and that takes us. But this year, we were excited about how it came down. We offered 23 different classes. We had 13 teachers with 5 assistants.
She knows.
We had 271 individual students for a total of 475 enrollments over the 4-week period. What was really interesting is at the beginning of our first week or so, we didn't have that many. But as kids went to the week 1, they saw how much fun it was, they enjoyed it, then they added another week and potentially even a 3rd week. So that was wonderful. Here's the breakdown by district. So this shows how many students came from each of the participating districts that we had. And the next slide will show how many students were given the grants.
Now it's working.
It went a little bit too far. So there are some of the districts we had the opportunity to offer some grants. So Monticello was able to use some of our A&I money to put aside for grants for students in the Monticello district. A few other districts also had the opportunity to do that. So it ended up being 9 from Maple Lake, 7 from Monticello, and 2 from Big Lake as far as grants go. The goal with the program is that it's self-sufficient, runs on its own, pays for itself. And then as it grows, if we have money left over, that will be able to be put back into the communities for us to offer more scholarships for more families and more students to join.
And I loved reading the testimonials. So as with all community education classes, on the Thursday, a survey went out to the parents, and we also sent one out to the kiddos. And Mr. Olson walked in on our last day of class, and I just randomly grabbed a bunch of surveys. I hadn't even looked at them yet. And I said, look at what the kids are saying. And I mean, I literally didn't go through them and edit them first, and it was just like, what would you change about this class? Nothing. It was amazing. Nothing. We should have another class just like this. And then on the Friday surveys from the parents, we really did get amazing feedback. One of my favorites was a mom wrote that her son was disappointed that she had signed up and wasted her money on a class like that, but he had such a blast that he cannot wait to go back next year. So that was one of my favorite ones. My daughter had a blast. Again, no suggestions. Keep continuing with it. Gifted and high-functioning learners have so little in our district. This is a breath of fresh air. And again, this could have been from one of the 8 districts that were represented. And she had nothing but good things to say about a particular course that this student had taken. The teachers love to be there. The kids want to be there. The teachers are excited to share their passion outside of the classroom. And it's just an amazing 4 days. And this year we got to do it for 4 weeks.
The other thing that was so fun is the teachers, like Leanne said, they don't teach necessarily classes that they teach typically during the school year. They teach whatever they're passionate about, whatever they want to teach about. And so it was really interesting to see teachers step outside of their normal teaching realm and really just, you could see the excitement on their face, and then that just kind of rolled over to the kids, and it was such a great opportunity for the teachers that they are so excited to come back. So these are a few of the classes that we had, and we thought picture visuals are probably pretty good. We had cooking and crime busters. We had lots of space. We had chess, and there are some different classes, and I think, oh, this is going to be a great class. It's going to run. It's going to be fantastic. And there's others where you're thinking, well, maybe. It's not my jam, but somebody might want it. Somebody might be excited. Chess was one of those. I was blown away by how many kids were super excited and really geeked out about the fact that they get to be doing chess and learning chess and having competitions with other like-minded kids. We had chemistry, lots of robotics. The gnome came from some Scandinavian things that we did, so they were learning about different cultures, and it was so much fun to see the variety of classes. The other thing that comes from the information that we get from students and parents at the end of the weeks is, what would you like to see? What more do you want? Kids come up with fantastic ideas. Parents have great things, and so we put those together in a list, so when we send out information to the districts and the teachers this coming fall about ideas and, hey, would you like to teach with our program next summer? Because this all starts in September and October for summer programming. We have a list of ideas from kids that go above and beyond anything that we could have dreamed up. We are so excited for the ideas and the potential for what they want to see.
We were just sharing the list with a few potential teachers this afternoon, and it's 3 pages long. 2 columns. So, and I think chess was one of those classes that came from the survey 2 years ago, because kids would just get together at their free time and play chess. And
yep.
It was a very popular class, an extremely popular class. So we put together a little video.
So Gavin, you've got the video.
And it is just kind of our student promo for next year. So this will be sent out to the GT high potential teachers and as our promo. So this is just a short snippet of what we did this summer. your thunder.
Yeah, go for it.
So the typical kid who comes might not fit in to their regular classroom, okay? But when they come to NWTA, they stand out. They are a light. They have friends. You know, she mentioned that one mom said, my kid has never been invited to a birthday party before. And after NWTA, they got their first birthday party invite. And this is just something so near and dear to our hearts. And we are just so passionate about it. And we're so grateful for Mr. Olson and Jeremiah Mack, who just let us go
Take it and run.
with it. And these kids just thrive. They thrive. So, and Jenine is extraordinary. She's amazing. I don't know how she gets everything done, so much in a day, but she just puts so much passion and love into this program, and the kids just reap so many benefits from it. So I'm very thankful as a parent and a coworker. So,
Thank you. Do you have any questions for us? Yes?
Has there been any, this is mostly for K through 5, is that right?
It is
K through
second
6?
grade through 8th grade.
Second through 8. Has
Yeah.
there been any discussion about maybe developing some content for high school age kids so that they don't have to go to a university to do an enrichment program in the summer? Because those are mostly, for the high school kids, they're almost always based out of a university, and that's a real barrier for a lot of kids who can't travel.
Yep. Are you thinking more
Maybe
like
not.
for like college credit
No, just.
or just for fun?
Just a week-long enrichment class, the same sort of thing.
Yep. So this is modeled after, like Leanne said, West Suburban Summer School, which is a collaborative from down in the cities. And they do offer some high school programming. So it definitely is something that we have the potential to move into. So Leanne and I were just talking, we like Mr. Randy Stoich's model of 10%. Try and do 10% something to advance yourself, to, you know, give yourself 10% to look forward to. Any less, you're not challenging yourself. Any more, you might be spreading yourself too thin. So that's one of the things that we were talking about. Do we look at expanding via district? How many districts? We have interest from other districts. Do we look at maybe getting older grades? We do have some comments and parents responding with that from their weekly things about potentially adding some high school type things. So it too also comes down to what the teachers want to propose to us. And if we have the teachers that are willing to step up and be able to teach something like that. So
I was just thinking, in particular, mock trial, and like Boys and Girls State, we don't have those here, so
No.
those are always really popular.
I have, however, talked with our new Dean of Students at the high school, who started and ran the mock trial program at the school he was previously at. So he and I have sat down and we had a conversation in July about mock trial and seeing what we can do to try and start pulling that into our district as well. So,
Excellent. Thank you.
yes. Any other questions?
I think this is fantastic. Is there anything that you need from us in terms of support?
You know, I think just listening, being willing to let us continue on with the program. It's been great when we meet with Eric in the school year when we're looking at summer programming. I sit down, I have a seat at the table with all of the other administrators and all the other summer program people that are involved, the custodians from the different buildings, so we can map out what's happening in our district during the summer. Just continuing to let us have this program housed here. It works incredibly well, since this is our home district, to be able to have the program here. It's pretty centrally located when you look at the different districts that are involved in the collaboration. So it's really nice to be able to have that. As far as supporting us as programming, just know that GT is an important piece that is needing to have program funding and be also up on the scale of when you're looking at what we're doing in our district, that there is a need for this population of student to have good, solid programming K through 12.
Thank you both for being here and giving the presentation. I really appreciate the update. We see the planning stage, and it's always
Yeah.
nice to see how things are going.
Yes, thank you.
It's awesome to say every kid every day, and then to be able to prove it with programs like this from the vision and leadership of people like you too. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We did you have,
I was just wondering what the qualifications for the student to qualify to go to.
so it depends on we leave it up to every district. So every district has qualifications for they're specific, so it would depend on what district that student is from. So if it's a Monticello student, it would be someone who qualifies for programming based on a variety of things, whether it be the COGAT test that's given in 2nd and 4th grade, teacher recommendation, so it's not just all academic as well. So we do have students that are nominated for art, for music, for theater, so it's not just math and science and reading, if you will. So there's a variety of ways that they can qualify.
And also different learning levels of the child, different levels of how they learn.
Yes, so we have many students that come with IEPs. We have twice exceptional students, so we have students that might be special education in one area, but also gifted in a different area or talented. So we have a variety of students that come with a huge background of learning abilities and styles.
And I can forward your communication on to anybody after the meeting who might have a question or anything.
Thank you guys
We
so
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have the presentation and resolution relating to increasing the general education revenue in the school district with Clay, Tina, and Eric.
Good evening. We're here tonight to present information in regards to the 2021 referendum that the board will be voting on tonight. So we'll start with our current reality. As everyone on the board knows, the past 4 years, we've cut a total of $3.2 million in budget reductions. The past year, COVID impacted year, we did not make cuts. We were able to stave them off due to one-time relief funding. But with that funding expiring at the end of this year, we're looking at $3.1 million in cuts this spring if we aren't able to generate money through an operating referendum. In addition, our technology budget is unable to sustain our district goal of having a device for every student, a reality that will start impacting both devices and services rendered soon. With the current reality in mind, we are attempting to plan for the future, and to do that, we are, you can go to the next slide, Gavin. To do that, we're focused on asking the community what we need as a school district rather than what we want. The state funding has certainly improved during this past budget cycle. As we've all seen, the numbers have increased over what we've got in the past few years, but it has not made up for the lack of funding during the past 2 decades and the several years of 0% funding that have caused a gap in our education funding based on inflation, salary matrices, and more. And it is our hope that with potential operating referendum and technology referendum money that we're able to provide our community, that we're able to provide funding that stabilizes our district and helps us to retain our status as a stellar educational institution through the remainder of the 5-year levy cycle.
So I'm going to highlight, how did we get here? Both the state and federal governments have failed to meet our rising costs of due to inflation. And if you click on the first link in there, Gavin, for the last 18 years, 9 of those years, the state aid has increased below 2%. So 50% of that time. Zeros, 1.5, 1 is kind of what we saw. 7 of those years, the increase was at 2%. And so there were a couple years that we saw a couple 4%. So you can see the blue line would be if the state aid had kept up with inflation. And the dotted orange line is kind of where we're at. So they closed the gap a little bit, but it widened thereafter with those zeros, 1, 1.5, 2%. And hopefully you all remember that we are a very labor-intensive industry. 80% of our budget is salary and benefits. Existing terms of our employment contracts often equal or exceed the increases we get from the state. 1.5, 2% on average is kind of what's built into our contracts. People getting a longevity, they're getting a 403B match, or whatever the benefit is already existing in that contract, that eats up a lot of that new money that comes in. So there we get the funding gap. If you want to go back to the slide, Gavin, we have a couple charts to look at how we compare to other districts. The first link has our current property tax impact, just to estimate on a $200,000 home. The blue bar is Monticello, our levy operating amount in comparison to those other area districts. So St. Cloud and St. Michael, they do not have a voter-approved levy in their tax revenue. Annandale had one below us, but we are below Big Lake, Maple Lake, Buffalo, Hamburg Montrose, Becker, and Elk River. So just above the group average. Finally, COVID has created many challenges for school districts last year. For us, as an example, we had an enrollment projection of 4,241 coming into last year. 112 of those kids did not show up. So we have to staff as if those kids are coming, and we can't lay off staff, unfortunately, when the kids don't show up. Schools have to be set in how things are created and implemented for the start of the year. So those federal funds helped us keep our programming and helped us do other things to quickly evolve and adapt with different instructional delivery models.
As Ms. Burkholder alluded to there, this isn't a Monticello issue. It's a funding and education issue in the state of Minnesota. It's something that we've seen across communities across the state, and especially in our local area. If you just look at the districts around us that have gone out or are in talks with their community to go out for additional funding, either in the last couple of years or in the next year, it's a pretty comprehensive list. Some of the schools that we have mentioned up there that have either gone out for a bond or operating referendum or are in talks with their community to do so are Annandale, Becker, Big Lake, St. Michael, Albertville, Buffalo, and more. And the reality is that with those gaps that we just saw on the chart that Ms. Burkholder showed, that districts are finding that there's just a need. It's not what it used to be, where districts are going to their community when they want to add a special new program or they want something that differentiates them. It's that districts are finding that they need an additional level of funding just to maintain the programming that they run and to keep up with the expectations that we should all have in education. One of the big questions that we see and that we all think through is, why don't we just tighten our own belts? And it's a very fair question, and it's the answer is that we have, as the board knows and as the board has gone through several times in recent history. We've gone through 3 budget reductions in the last 4 years, totaling $3.2 million, and the reality is that if we are forced to cut 3.1 million more this year, that brings us to 6.3 over 5 years, and we're continuing to look at additional budget reductions in the future without a change in how we're funded or the funding that we're generating from the community. And I guess we feel like that's not so much tightening our belts in education as it is deprioritizing what we're able to give to our students and our staff.
With a lot of the realities of this presentation, one of the hardest reality to talk about is what would happen if we don't pass this operating levy. And what would happen is we would have some reductions. And as Ms. Burkholder talked about, the reductions will inevitably come in the areas that eat up most of your budget. And we are an 80% people industry. And so when 80% come from the wages and benefits of people, the things that get most affected quickly are things like classroom sizes, because we can't hire the adequate number of teachers when you make reductions. Alternative education options. We run many models in our school district, things like a very high-profile ALP that's run by a lot of research and best practices in a location outside of the high school. We have programs like Nature Base and building programs like 882 online to be able to serve students through pandemics in all situations. And not only alternative education options as classroom options, but we also start to see the reductions of one-to-one services. Currently, programs like Title I and compensatory aid are affected when we go through things like COVID. And so Title I funding from the federal government has been greatly reduced in the last 2 years. And so as compensatory aid, which is directly related to people filling out free and reduced lunch applications. When that happens, that money has traditionally been used in school systems to meet the needs of learners when they're not making the progress that they so deserve. Along with the programs that I've already talked about, there inevitably you do want to usually look at programs to provide a balance. There are school districts who look just to cut people. And then there are programs or the school districts who try to approach this more systematically and try to do a balanced approach. Well, when you do a balanced approach, you have to look at all things like activities and athletics, not that they would get cut. And so please don't leave here thinking that they would get cut tonight, but they may be reduced. So like if a sport or activity has 25 contests, they might be reduced down to save some of the costs. And another thing that we would have to look at is technology, and so the philosophy across the district of technology and what teachers are trying to do to prepare our students in a ever-changing 21st century school and world. We would have to look at those philosophies and make some reductions in those areas. And then the last thing that I would bring up is, and I bring up these things not to have us all leaving here defeated, but I bring them up because the district has already had to reduce media centers in many of the buildings across the district, and so inevitably you would keep doing some of those things to reduce it further, and that once again can make for not as rich schools as that we would want to continue to build. So we are currently working to finalize the $3.1 million in budget reductions, where it would come from. So today it's our initial communication, and then you start working with employee groups and administration to make sure that you've gone through this presentation and started working backwards towards the different types of reductions that we would have to make to equal the reduction should we not pass the operating levy. We will make sure that we share additional things like those specific lists on September 13th. We learned a lot of things of how to do things better from the last operating levy, and one of the things people want to see is that information out before early voting. So we'll make sure that that becomes a priority at every board meeting and every different system that we create over the communication system we create over the next couple months.
Okay, so there are a couple ways of looking at the funds, the money related to the resolution that you guys will be voting on tonight. So the number one idea, as I touched on earlier, is that we're looking at funding that we need. We're not looking for funds to build something new or to add something or to build a stadium. It is strictly an ask for dollars that we need to continue our current level of programming and staffing. 4.1 million of that need comes in operating funds. That is the amount of money that's needed to maintain our current programming for the next 5 years, which is what this levy cycle, so the next 5 years after this current school year, which is where the levy cycle would run, matching the cycle that we currently have on the books, and they would both expire at the same time at the end of that 5-year cycle. That 4.1 million in operating funds puts our budget in a place where the forecast does not call for budget reductions during that 5 years. That's the amount we need to get to that place. Additionally, we're looking at $1.2 million in technology funds, and that's the amount that we need to continue to maintain our standing as a district that has one-to-one devices for our student body. And it's also the amount that we need to start providing more of our teachers with some of the technology tools that they need in their classrooms today, such as smart boards and sound fields and these other tools that allow them to give students the educational experience that they deserve and, quite honestly, are coming to expect in this day and age. So specifically, what you as a board will be voting on tonight is a resolution to put the following questions on the ballot. Question 1 is a $2.1 million operating referendum question. The passage of question 1 would lower the amount of budget reductions required this year and in future years, allowing the protection of certain programming and staffing across our district. Question 2 is a $1.2 million operating referendum question that is contingent upon the passage of question 1, which means that question 1 needs to pass in order for question 2 to have a chance to pass. The passage of question 2 would allow the district to avoid budget-related reductions entirely this school year. Question 3 is a $2 million technology referendum question. The passage of question 3, a technology levy, would stabilize our technology funding, and it would also free up $800,000 in technology staffing that could be moved over under the technology fund and free up that $800,000 for our general fund, which would get us to that 4.1 million number that we need to get our budget to a space where in the 5-year forecast there are no budget reductions. And again, it would provide the funding to keep expanding our technology capabilities and to maintain our one-to-one devices that we currently have for K through 12.
So Ellers, our financial advisors, have, can you go, okay, nope, back. Have provided a property tax impact chart for us on what those 3 questions would mean for residential properties, for commercial properties, apartments. So we've looked at an average home of $200,000 and $250,000, somewhere in that range. So for a $200,000 house, question 1, for example, would have a $132 tax impact, $77 for question 2, $83 for question 3, to come to $292 for the whole year, or $24 monthly. For a $250,000 home, similarly, $166, $96 for question 2, $108 for the question 3, or $370 for the whole year, or $31 per month. So this will be on our website for people to view that as well. The next slide has where would this put us if all 3 questions were passed. So the first blue line was where we were at for a $200,000 home value. For all property value revenue coming in, it would put us to $958 if all 3 questions were passed. And we still have a couple school districts that are higher than us, but we would be above the group average.
As was stated during the citizens' comments, we did have 4,000 yes votes, but the district did fail the operating levy when we went out in 2020. Since last November, we've been asking our community many times in many different ways, why, and we're making sure that we listen. And from what we can tell through surveys and through different public speaking opportunities like coffee chats or at chamber, the business organizations and our community and parents often say that they want more clarity, and also the concept of asking for exactly what we need, not what we want. So we tried to make this 3-question ballot based on needs and not wants, and so hopefully we're able to communicate that in a clear fashion so that everyone understands where we are exactly. We understand, speaking of understanding, we understand the financial hardship that everybody's going through right now. COVID has not been an easy times for businesses. It's not been an easy time for healthcare professionals. It's not been an easy time for school systems, small business, families, and all of our community members. And so we don't come to you today with a list of unnecessary wants and desires. We come to you with a list that we believe would allow us to continue and maintain the programs that we have without making those budget reductions for 5 years. And I often get asked, when are you going to control your own checkbook? And I know that it's times like this when communities pull together that you get to see us controlling our own checkbook. Without it, we end up controlling our own checkbook, but we end up reducing a lot of things in the path. And that can be hard for those of us who wear our education hearts on our sleeve to not be able to answer the call of what students need and deserve. Through countless hours of research and discussion, I've been bear witness to that of our school board over the last about 18 months. Today we come to you as the community and to our parents to ask that you consider these questions in hopes that we can maintain educational excellence and continue our growth as a pillar in this amazing community.
Okay, lastly, if the board does move forward with this resolution tonight, we just wanted to let the community know what they can expect moving forward. As Superintendent Olson mentioned earlier, prior to the beginning of early voting on September 17th, community members can expect the following materials to be shared publicly. That includes a flyer with details specifically regarding where the money would go and the budget reductions that it would be preventing, videos explaining educational funding and how we're in the position that we are in, and information regarding how and when to vote. As far as notices, Monticello School District would mail notice of the referendum to the community in the 15 to 30 days preceding the election, which is the legal guidelines. And notices of the special election would be published in the Monticello Times. And lastly, absentee ballots would be made available by September 17th, and election day voting would take place on November 2nd at the Monticello Community Center gym. Does the board have any questions?
I think it's important to point out that this isn't a decision that the community needs to understand, that we have spent a lot of time talking about this, and we've had many work sessions, and we've looked at everything. We've looked at, is it a good time to go? Is it not a good time to go? If you wait, what is the effect if you wait? If we wait, does it put us back a whole nother 2 years in the fiscal cycle? When do those dollars come to you when you hold your referendum? It's not, I don't want my taxes raised. I mean, who does? I agree, but I have kids in school. All the board members here have kids in school, so it's important. But we're not. It's just this isn't the first time that we've talked about this. We've spent too many hours probably talking about this because we've been struggling with what to do and the direction to go in and how to do this. And it's a challenge. It's not easy. I've been on the board the longest. I've been, 13 years now, and we've been fortunate that we haven't had to do this a lot. And the last time we were fortunate we passed referendum was because we paid off the school early. And so through refinancing and smart decisions, we paid off the high school early, which allowed us to run a referendum where most people in the tax levy, taxes went down with the last, or they went up minimally. And so that was one of the reasons we were able to pass that referendum, that situation. And this is a little different now. This is a little bit more, a little bit more than what we paid last time. So, but it's, it's difficult. I don't know what else to say.
My frustration, I'll agree with what Jeff said as well, is that the legislature has put us in this position of having to go with our hat in our hand to our citizens, because while they have funded us, as Dustin pointed out, more than they have in the past, the gap is undeniable. And these are operating expenses. They're not new buildings or new programs. And that is a huge frustration. I think at the legislature, they need to be examining school funding a whole lot more seriously.
It's been a long process and a lot goes into it, and school funding is a very difficult concept, and there's a lot that we've looked at, but I do appreciate the presentation you guys have put together and the countless hours we've spent going over all of the different options. And the reality is we are looking at cutting $3 million, which will significantly affect every student in our district. And now is the time to try and avoid that.
Yeah, this definitely hasn't been a hasty decision that the board's talked about. There's a huge need to provide what our students need, and really putting money towards our future generations. We're not growing anything, we're just trying to give them the best experience they can during a really difficult time. And really, our job is to make sure we're doing the responsible thing for each student every day. And it hasn't been a hasty decision. It's hours and hours and hours trying to do what's right by our community, knowing what the investment means, but also knowing the impact it'll have on our children.
Somebody have the resolution up?
Do we have to, is this do we need to read something or just make a motion? Is there a resolution?
What all has to be read on the resolution, the entire thing?
No, just in the bold black, I think.
Nothing bolded on here.
Right there, just that part. I make a resolution relating to the increase the general education referendum the school district approved, approving new referendum revenue authorizations, approving a capital project levy authorizing the fund technology and calling an election thereon.
Is that all that needs to be read, or?
Do I need a second?
So, resolution read by Jeff Hegle, seconded by Melissa Curtis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Resolution passes 6-0. Now we're on to our teaching and learning section, and we've got substitute rates with Barb Wilson.
All right, every year I come to the board and ask that we evaluate our substitute rates. We've looked at these rates in committee. We've compared them to our neighboring districts who use kind of the same pool of people who are interested in subbing in school districts. We've compared numbers across the state as well as in our region. And so I'm making this proposal related to substitute teacher and support group rates for the coming school year. So as you can see on the grid, we're proposing that we keep our day-to-day substitute rates the same as we had last year, remembering that in January we reviewed these and again increased the rates last year, later in the year. And these numbers still compare very positively with our neighboring districts. So we're proposing to keep our day-to-day substitute rates the same. Our long-term substitute rate, which is any substitute that's in a position for more than 30 days, is connected to our teacher contract. It's BA Step 1, and so that will automatically go up 2% when our contract is approved with our teacher group. And last year we started on-call or building subs. We started calling them 60-day subs, but they really worked throughout the COVID school year. They were assigned to one building to keep any kind of spread contained as best as possible. So if we continue doing building subs, we would continue with that same rate as well at $175 per day. So those are our teacher substitute rates. Our support group rates, again, also in these areas, we did increases to custodians last year as well as to secretaries. So those are very stable for us related to our contracts. We're also talking with our support groups, and we are starting negotiations with different groups. So I'm recommending that we keep these sub rates the same until we settle those contracts, and we'll have a little bit better idea of what we're paying, you know, our entry-level custodians and our entry-level support employees in the various groups. So just recommending that we keep our sub rates the same. Any questions?
Is this an action item?
Yes.
Do I
I
have
make a
a
motion to approve the current substitute rates as is.
second? Motion made by Jeff, seconded by Candy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Now we've got our collaborative connections, Mighty Ducks Hockey Arena Grant.
So, Mr. Olson and I have been working with Scott Frederickson, our arena manager, to get a Mighty Ducks grant for our R22 refrigerant replacement project. The refrigerant it needs to comply with global warming requirements, so we're doing this grant to help pay for half of those costs. We have a resolution attached to your agenda to be approved. The project is estimated to cost around $20,000. The grant will cover 50% of that. For the remaining 50%, $9,000, just under $10,000 and change. We will use our set aside for capital funds that is with the arena fund balance, about $5,000, and the rest of that will be absorbed in the regular operations of our arena fund. And if you recall, the arrangement we have with the Monticello Youth Hockey Association, if there is a deficit in that fund for the year, they take care of that. And if there's a surplus, we split that 50-50. That's how we've been able to, when we have surpluses, build up our capital fund balance. So we decided up front, as a kind of make ends meet for the project, to use some of our capital funds, but then whatever shakes out for the rest of the year will come out with what happens for the school year.
Thank you. Do we have to read this resolution?
I believe so. I'm not a resolution expert. We put it on the agenda because it said that it had a resolution to send in, and since the checks that we write out, even though it's mainly run by the Monticello Youth Hockey Association, the checks come from us, so we wanted to cover our bases and make sure that the school board had the resolution on file, that it was approved, so we can move forward.
Does somebody have that to read?
It looks pretty long, but I will go for it. Whereas the Independent School District 882 Monticello desires to complete its project named R22 Replacement, the Mosher Arena located on 800 East Broadway, Monticello, resolved that the total cost of completing the project shall be $19,595, and Independent School District 882 Monticello is requesting $9,797.50 from the James Metzen Mighty Ducks Grant Program, and will assume responsibility for a matching donation of the same amount. Independent School District 882, Monticello, and Monticello Youth Hockey Association agrees to assume 100% operational costs for the facility and equipment and will operate the facility or equipment for its intended purpose for the functional life of the facility or equipment, which is estimated to be 10 years. Independent School District 882, Monticello agrees to enter into necessary and required agreements with the MASC for the specific purpose of completing the project. That a request for reimbursement be made to the MASC for the amount awarded after the completion of the project, and that Scott Frederickson of Mooshert Arena is authorized and directed to execute said application and serve as the official liaison with the MASC.
Second. Resolution read by Candace, seconded by Melissa. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Resolution passes 6-0. Now on to our safe and healthy culture part of the agenda with our COVID-19 update.
All right, we're continuing. We're just going to continue to offer updates to the school board and the public about progress and decisions that are being made related to COVID-19. So you will see this kind of routinely on your agendas. So if you go to the next slide. Just some quick updates. We have published our Safe Return to In-Person Learning Plan, and it's already had its first revisions. We will be revising the plan on Thursdays, and we'll post new plans so that they stay as current as possible. We are constantly attending meetings and gathering guidance from local and community health organizations as well as MDE and MDH. So we will continue to monitor those resources and adjust our plan as we need to and keep everybody in the loop about how we're adjusting to meet needs. We met with our district nurses last week and reviewed the requirements after their update on Wednesday from MDH about what schools are required to do related to COVID, and those are in the plan. So you should see some updated health office protocols. Number one, stay home if you're sick. We are still required to report any lab confirmed positive cases. MDH will follow up with the lab confirmed positive cases, as well as our district nurses, to try to help them understand what, if any, quarantine requirements there are and other recommendations for their unique situations. Probably our biggest effort as we enter into bringing everybody back is just to reinforce and reiterate our mitigation strategies, which again, number one, stay home if you're sick. The hand sanitizers, as well as the cleaning of frequently touched surfaces, will continue just as last year. And social distancing to 3 to 6 feet, which was the recommended adjustment by the CDC. We'll just keep gathering our data points like we did last year as well. And currently, Magic Adventures is in session, and our high school activities are starting up this week. So those will be some of our first sources of our own students and staff present in their roles, and we'll just continue to move forward carefully, watching things closely. And then, just as last year, it's constantly evolving, our COVID protocols. And one of our strategies this year is that we will host a staff and a community drop-in vaccination clinic. It will be held at the arena entrance to the middle school. And that is going to be operated by Centricare, so we're really just hosting it as a courtesy to our staff and our community, and an encouragement for children over 12 and adults to get vaccinated. That will be held on Thursday, September 2nd from noon to 7. So that is a staff work day. All of our support staff are here. It's kind of a good day for us to host this and provide an opportunity to our staff. And then our COVID dashboard is up and it's kind of reset. You'll see right on the dashboard, if you go there, that we have our summer school reported cases on there. And we'll just continue to update that dashboard every week, late on Thursdays. Any questions?
On the safe learning plan, can we, when we update it, highlight it so it's easy for parents to find out what changed?
I think we talked, yes, about doing that, Melissa. So we'll update it for a week and then take the updates out, and then as a new one comes out, we'll do that. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Barb.
Yep, that's Barb.
Now on to our first reading of policies.
All right, tonight we are bringing forth the following policies for a first reading. Policy 208, Policy 214, Policy 208, Development, Adoption, and Implementation of Policies, and Policy 214, Student Representative on the School Board. Those two policies are coming forth in first reading. Our policy committees had the opportunity to work through these policies with MSBA recommended changes. All board members have had the opportunity to review these policies in your board packet. Are there any questions at this time regarding either of these two policies?
Chosen the student rep this year yet?
They're working on it now, according to the new guidelines that we just came up with here. So, yeah. All right, great. Then we'll be moving these policies forward to second reading. Thank you to the policy committee for your continued hard work. As Mr. Hegle says, the policies never end, right? They just keep coming, but that's good. That means that we're active.
Policies and roofs never end.
That's right. That means we're active in making sure that we keep those up to date. All right, that brings,
On to the second reading.
Yeah. That brings us to our second readings, as Jennifer said. Tonight we are bringing forth the following policies for a second reading. Policy 703, Annual Audit, Policy 534, Unpaid Meal Balance, and Policy 520, Student Surveys. Like mentioned before, the policy committee has had an opportunity to work through these policies with MSBA recommended changes. They previously had a reading, and all board members have had the opportunity to review the policies in the board packet. Are there any questions at this time regarding these second reading of policies?
Can we get a motion to approve policies 703, 534, and 520?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made by Candy, seconded by Kathy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. And now I can ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Melissa, seconded by Candy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Meeting adjourned at 7:06. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Talking to each other, I know we feel the same about the situation, like we're stuck inside a game. Time to get out of this circle, yeah, we both carry a scar. Let's rewrite the part we're playing, time to cherish who we are. The only thing I ever wanted starts with us taking the chance, not like anything we've done before, yeah. Now it's time for something better, and time for us to follow our dreams. No, we can't stay no more. Come run away, don't be afraid.